Are you ready for Cammy?
Training is behind me. I can feel it in my hands. The memory of holds, the rhythm of breath. The game asks if I want to go back, but my body already knows the answer. Now Cammy rises ahead, quiet and immense. I prepared for this. I've dreamed of this. And even if fear whispers otherwise, I'm ready to begin the ascent.
Play the message.
Hey, it's Naomi. Just making sure you got this before you're too high up. I wanted to say, be careful. You know I always worry. Watch for the snakes, the drops, the loose holds, the cold, your food supply, and so on and so forth. Also to say that I'm always with you, you know? She says from her couch. Anyways, that's all I had, sweetie. Hang in there.
Good thing you don't know about the bears. You wouldn't have let me leave. Hey, you up? Time to go. Could you also pack up the tent, please? All right, let's start from here.
And here we are, starting the ascent of Mount Cammy. And by using the zoomed out view, I was able to get a general idea of the path that I would take up this stretch of rock face. And after relaxing her posture and recovering her breath for a moment, I'm now able to begin once again. And my mindset here was to utilize the kind of sloped area here so I could traverse the terrain and make a good transfer as indicated by Aava's voice cue.
Good.
And I wanted to get an angle to see if there were any handholds or footholds that were angled by turning the camera. Which sometimes I find does allow for greater visibility of the particular edges, utilizing the art style itself, which is a primary advantage and benefit for deciding which path you want to take up the Mount Cammy. Inside, or when you want to decide which path to take as you make your ascent up Mount Cammy. I try to get that small little crack in the wall, but she was only placing her hand just like that instead of gripping it. And there I want to see if her left hand would reach and if there would be some kind of transfer of body weight to allow her to propel herself up forward, which I'm thinking if I had positioned her legs differently, she would have been able to propel upwards. But at this point in the game, I was still learning about how the stretches actually worked. in the case of getting her to be able to climb higher as quickly as possible. But fortunately, every crack from here upwards are completely usable for climbing up this stretch. And so I was thinking perhaps I would go up the middle and make my way up kind of diagonally right, and then turning and kind of going a little bit more to the right until I was able to stretch her arms up to get to the very top. And she started getting a little shaky there. So I also replenished her stamina when climbing.
Okay.
With the default Q key, which works while climbing to restore her stamina. And so for this first initial playthrough, I will be starting off a bit slow like this just to get better acquainted with the game and the climbing mechanics. And the goals for the future runs will be to take either the same routes or different routes and being able to climb them more quickly and efficiently without having to worry too much about the grip conditions, as the climbs will be completed almost as quickly as possible to prevent more wear and tear on her hands, which will detrimentally affect the grip quality, where it basically bypasses the threshold of, you know, your climbing, like an individual's climbing skill and their degree of practice that they have with climbing will pretty much only go so far until perhaps the like a very poor grip quality might negatively affect the climbing speed and slippage, especially during the more inclement weather where the rain will actually make the rocks much more slippery, and also the periodic gusts of wind that will present themselves later on. Then this is the route I took, which was a slightly slower route compared to literally climbing up the almost ladder-like steps that were provided right there, which would have been a much quicker way, and it does enable for much quicker climbing as well. I tried to get her left foot to get on the small little crack that was there, but due to the way the game was trying to get her to do that, she was slipping instead. then I had her pretty much doing the splits like this because automatically that's what the game wanted her to do at the moment. And so I had to get her to get back to a more neutral position by utilizing the manual controls. And now here we are, finally at the first stretch. That will allow us to segue onto the path
Size bigger up here for sure.
and our ascent upwards. And here I'm actually walking and making the slow tread forward, but it is also very possible to just utilize a running start and running as much as possible along this entire stretch if you so desired. But you will have to keep in mind that it will also come at a cost of Aava's HP. So it would also be a good idea to be acquainted with the better, like the more suitable healing items, and then deciding whether or not you actually want to turn any existing resources that you may have into chalk just for enhanced grip if you want to make a more speedier ascent up the mountain.
Oh, come on, Climber. Hurry up a little.
And now we're able to actually utilize pretty much the map piece that was found back in the gym in the tutorial area. So now we're able to use that here, and I could see what the varying degrees of difficulty are for the first time in this playthrough. So I will see the yellow paths are the absolute easiest paths, and then there's green, blue, red, which will... Most of the red paths weren't too challenging, but it still poses a degree of challenge. And then black, purple, and white were the absolute worst paths. Maybe more ideal paths, however, for more experienced climbers. But that will usually, like if you go at this usual pace, you won't find those type of paths until maybe closer to 8 or 11 hours, depending on how much exploration you decide to do. But you can even literally complete this entire game in under an hour and 13 minutes or so.
Perfect spot. Where do I start?
And that's if you're only purely going for the summit and not collecting things like the doll pieces, which are also mostly just for the Steam achievement. But I will note that the doll pieces themselves hold only a kind of lore significance. They don't have any effect on the story itself. but you will get a Steam trophy for doing so. And also, as for the bees, if you go up that yellow path to try to get the honey, you'll actually be able to find the beekeeper's quarters, and you'll be able to get this jar of honey as well as at least one of 3 honey sticks that are available in the earlier areas of Mount Kami, which also helps shorten the path to the summit. At least the path taken will significantly shorten the overall path up. However, many of those paths will also have less, like you'll have to pretty much climb very quickly and accurately to take those paths. Like the more alternative paths that are off the main routes. And that's the first rainbow, and maybe only one of the only rainbows I saw out of any cutscene during my playthrough of this. I wanted to decide, or I was trying to decide which route to take by using the map view. And right there in the middle there, that's where you would want to go to get to the beekeeper's quarters. And you could do so by doing a running start on the cliff nearby. But I decided to go up this right route instead. I wanted to see if there was any resources or flowers that could be collected up above. But since the map itself didn't show any resources, I decided to just leave it alone. So I decided to go and take the route that led to the dandelion. So I went up that green route and transferred over that blue route to get over to the dandelion. And then I went to the back and I took the path forward from there. And then here you can see the backpack with the no sign, so it doesn't allow me to pick up the abandoned bottle, which can be used to be composted into chalk. So I utilized Shake Up Bag, and after that I was finally able to pick up the abandoned bottle. And since it's too damaged to be used and nothing could be salvaged from it, and it's not one of the empty bottles that could be used to fill with any type of liquid resource, I decided to just compost it into chalk. And then I didn't have any keepsakes currently equipped, however we did get the Tenzen keepsake, which is the first of many keepsakes that are available throughout the gameplay of Cairn. And I accidentally didn't equip it, so I go back into the menu and I saw that I had to hit space to choose, because I had initially just left clicked it and thought that it would just be equipped, but it wasn't at that moment. So after hitting the space key on my keyboard, I was finally able to view it on the backpack. And so for the artist or artists that were responsible for making the icon art for them. They also had to do the 3D art that would be displayed on the backpack itself. And I really wanted to make sure that there was nothing up on this cliff face that I was looking at and trying to survey as much as possible, because I did see the red ropes on the tree, so I wondered if that meant there were traces of climbers being there or leaving things behind. And just like the abandoned bottle, there's also the broken bottles, and those could also be composted into chalk. And if you go to the path where it shows the bees, you don't have to, even where the hives are at, you don't have to worry about getting stung by the bees. Rather, you just collect resources from either the hives, or if you take that route with the green in the middle there, kind of more towards the left side of the screen now, then you could actually get some useful climbing buffs from some of the resources at the beekeeper's quarters. But I think that's the path I will go and take next time. But as for here, since this was my first official climb, I decided to go and take this route to learn more about the basics and movement of climbing, and how the game automatically detects Aava's ideal handholds and footholds. But then instead of going up, since the cliff above is mostly a sheer cliff, I decided to transfer over to the right and utilize this slope and the handhold to be able to propel herself upwards. But I also wanted the experience of climbing it how at least like a climber would try to climb it, or at least like a complete beginner climber might try to climb something more carefully and methodically. She started getting very shaky up here, so I was trying to quickly correct her placements. But in this particular case, in addition to shaking off the fatigue, I could probably utilize the manual controls to make it up so much easier, as even climbing solely using manual controls would probably be the best way of climbing up the mountain the quickest way, once the routes become more familiar. Then any at least doable route that you see is possible to climb, no matter how difficult the path might seem, unless it's like a completely sheer cliff. And I wanted her right hand to actually be where her left hand was as well, on the same handhold. But she kept placing it flat on the outside instead, automatically. And then there, her feet weren't in the best position. So I also tried to transfer over to the left as quickly as possible. Otherwise she would risk a fall right in this spot.
Hey Aava, this is Chris. So, do you ever respond to voicemail? We have no way to know your location. And the sponsors are breathing down my neck. I've been waiting for pictures forever. Can you at least confirm you've taken a few? It's hard enough for them to advertise your performance without any images. But if on top of that you're not giving any news, you know they'll start foaming at the mouth. Anyway, get back to me when you have a chance. I hope everything's okay. And my messages aren't making you angry. No need to deny it, I'm starting to know you. I'm just trying to do a decent job, you know?
Oh, you're gonna be so mad when you find out what I did to that camera.
And I'm actually glad I could make it up that far without using any of the pins. So that IRL would be considered a true, like a true free solo, because I didn't use any support at all. Which IRL in real life I would be using some support if, you know, I did actually get into climbing. And after collecting the dandelion back there, I decided to take this route in the back because I did see that it had more handholds up and they were grouped together fairly well. And that was my mindset as I tried ascending this part of the cliff face. And then here I decided to utilize the blue path forward. I made my way towards the upper right. I was thinking, should I place her left hand over to the left and then try to correct her feet placement, but then I decided against it and decided to move her other arm and legs over. And sometimes the game didn't have the best automatic sense of being able to tell whether Aava was on solid ground yet or not, so sometimes she'll still cling to the wall, as you can see even back in episode 1 when I was just first departing the gym and starting the first climb up the wall, the very first rock wall. To start the real training after. And you can see that she was clinging to the wall, but then it started trying to make her move towards the floor instead, so she would be more horizontal with the floor. And then here I try to correct her left foot placement, and that's probably what was making her more shaky. And then she finally was able to stabilize herself. And I wasn't sure how her right foot actually helped with that, because to me that area where her, like the balls of her feet are and her toes are curved up, it seemed like it would just be slippery. So I had intended for her right foot to actually be in the crack, but as soon as I took her left foot off of the crack, I decided to place the first hidden, but I ended up getting it twisted by mistake. By accident. I got the timing a little wrong. And then she liked what I did next, and I placed her right foot in this crack and decided to shift her weight, her body weight over in a more realistic manner, bring her left foot to where her right foot was, and then move the left foot and right foot yet again. Then I try to utilize more of the available cracks to stabilize her center of gravity more to make climbing a lot easier. Although game mechanic wise, I'm not sure if even center of gravity really holds any meaning in the game. Because from what I've seen, as long as you can see as long as you know which handholds and footholds you want to use, you can climb up as quickly as possible, despite, I guess maybe even despite the grip quality, even without any grip buffs. And then here, I decided to take this route as it seemed the easiest way to me at the time to be able to make it up this part of the rock face by utilizing the diagonal crack here. And I just utilized the kind of sloped area there to put her right foot before I transitioned it over here, and I could finally stretch and climb up. And then the musical cue here indicates that I finally made it to the next area. I collected the thistle, which would also allow me to cook up some cooked thistle after I use a bivouac. Soon enough, and we will see. And then there I saw the waterfall area there, which is where I wanted to go next, and we will see that in this part. I was getting hungry and a little bit thirsty, as indicated by the thirst meter. I decided to just eat some chocolate at the moment, even though like either the chocolate or the fruit jellies, because it does dehydrate. So I think the fruit jellies was what I had bought from the vending machine, and as you can see, it provides slightly more hunger than the protein bar, but it does dehydrate by 10. And I did decide to use that because I needed slightly more hunger, even though it did sacrifice thirst for the moment. But it wouldn't be the optimal food to eat. But at least there was water nearby, so it wasn't too much of an issue to get rehydrated again. And it also helps consolidate the inventory, especially where many of the packaged foods, especially from the beginning of the game, are not usable in any cooking recipes, so they are just better consumed and then composted into chalk. I tried to pick up the abandoned bottle here so I could also have a more stable source of chalk to use as needed. And I wanted to take a look at how far I had come. And then here I was only speed walking because I wasn't actually aware of the running start mechanic yet at this point.
Oh, look at you. Your circuits are frozen. Where did you come from? All the way up there? And you're getting back down? By yourself? All right, let's go. There's nothing we can do for him. We'll see if we can pick him up on the way back. Poor bag of bolts.
And I also got another Steam trophy there. Saved at the bivouac spot. But I didn't bivouac quite yet. And here I found the first bear-proof box that I had come across, and you can get some good supplies here if you desire. But one of the things I would go for sure would be the pin, as well as the hand wraps for sure. The crave strip only heals about 10 HP, so it wasn't as useful for the space that it consumes in the inventory, so I would rather go for the freeze-dried veggies. And it always is better if you have tea to use rather than water. It always makes a better variation or better variant of freeze-dried veggies. The crate strips would be kind of useful if you have the space to accommodate them. If you try to use the speed walking or the running start more frequently. And then I use chalk there not only to make a little more room in my inventory. And it says it was ready, so I did click that. It filled one slot of chalk as well as putting the remaining 2 out of 3 in the inventory. And then trying to consolidate my inventory by composting what I could. I got the crate strips just in case because I wasn't sure when I would actually use them, but I tried to have them just in case. But maybe depending on the path I took, if I took the path up from the beekeeper's quarters, I probably wouldn't even end up at this part of the mountain. So I wouldn't be on this side where the waterfall cave is at. Unless I made some detours to get back here. And so where the replayability of this game comes into play is where the player can decide how we want to ascend the mountain and how each player's experiences, even between multiple runs, can always be different. And each experience will be a bit more unique than the last. And so at the initial $30 price upon release, I feel like for what this game offers, it actually is, as there are also different endings for this game, at least 2 different endings for this game, depending on the choice of whether you decide to descend down the mountain or you actually decide to climb to the summit of Mount Kami. I feel like it is a fairly reasonable and balanced price for this game, as well as the time that can be taken in this game to really fully enjoy it and have the feeling of personal enrichment as well. And now during the Steam spring sale, it is, I think currently, at least in my region, it's about $23.99, so it is actually really well worth it. And I would say that based on the experience I've had so far in this game and from what I've seen, this game will easily be in the top 5 or top 10 for me. Perhaps even the top 5 for any game that would be released this year. Just in terms of the emotional impact that the game has, how it allows us to really think and reflect, and have more introspection about our lives. which I feel is also a very nice touch. And so I decided to leave the bivouac. I saved once again just in case. And then where the meter is right now is slightly around where 10 HP would be. Just from speed walking a little bit. She doesn't wear proper foot gear, or proper footwear. She just has bandaged feet. So she is still barely essentially walking very minimalist. And I suppose that's just so she can feel more friction when, at least just to have more friction or grip on her feet, I guess, from the bandages. But to protect the feet, but still have the feeling of wearing minimalist footwear. And so here I was wondering how I would make it up into the cave if it was even possible in the first place. And yes, it actually is. As I wanted to replenish my water supply that I had used from some of the empty bottles. And then as this is my first real climb, and if I wanted to save time here, I would probably just get a running start and jump straight onto the rock wall here. And that would make the initial ascent a little bit quicker. But also not knowing where the essential resources are yet, I decided to take things a bit more slower paced and relaxed so I could get more acquainted with the environment, the different routes that are possible, as well as being able to show how to complete some of the Steam achievements and some of the routes that I took personally to achieve them, especially when trying to collect the 3 doll pieces, which will be seen in future parts. So I'll be one of the 20% of players worldwide who have gotten it. And then it actually started raining on top of the rock already being slick right next to me from the waterfall water. And that will actually significantly decrease the grip quality on the rock. And I also haven't placed any pins down yet, so I was trying to do this carefully and methodically as well. So I was essentially doing it free solo, at least up to this point. I'm not sure if I ended up using a pin here, since it did start raining. Like right there, right on cue. Then I placed a pin right there, just for safety, as I wasn't sure what the climbing quality would be, or my grip quality would be, even with chalk. So I decided to use it right now as well. And then I used the safety of the single pin. And then I decided to make my ascent. try to make my way over to the upper left here, and I try to utilize the vertical crack to actually climb up. It's actually more of a branching off of a couple cracks. I wanted to see how possible it would be in the rainy condition. Now that the chalk has actually worn off, but I also didn't know how abundant the resources would be for composting in order to get more chalk, as chalk itself isn't a primary resource that is found in the world, but what rather it is gained mostly just through composting. Then I got her legs tangled up there from the automatic placement. So I had to find a way to just undo what she did and try to make her feel more comfortable. But then she started getting more unstable. And then she really didn't like the placement she was in, and I don't blame her. It was also very rainy, so just for safety, I also placed another pin. But pretty much the only resources up in the cave is just the water, as well as just a rest spot just to kind of admire and appreciate the view that you can see. But other than that, it's not really tantamount to the success of the climb itself, but it's more of a detour you can take to get water and just to enjoy the scenery, maybe a little bit of lore, as you will see the first signs of bear claws in this cave. But more like the scratch marks that are clearly indicative of the bear scratches, because it didn't seem like a lynx or anything else. The sound of the waterfall softens as I climb into the cave, like the mountain is lowering its voice to speak more intimately. The air changes here, cooler, heavier, carrying the scent of stone that's been shaped by centuries of falling water. My hands feel the shift too. Rock is slick in places, trustworthy in others, and every hold asks for a different kind of attention. This little cave isn't a refuge so much as a reminder The mountain has layers, moods, and memories. As I move upward, I can feel the rhythm of the climb settling into me. Breath, grip, wait, release. It's quiet here, but not empty. It feels like the mountain is watching to see if I understand its language. I stop at the rest point beside the pond, letting the climb fall away for a moment. The waterfall glows in the last light of the day, each droplet catching the sunset like a tiny ember. The surface of the pond is still, except where the water kisses it, sending ripples across the reflection of the sky. It's strange how a place this harsh can offer a moment this gentle. I sit with it, letting the warmth of the fading sun settle into my shoulders. The climb is demanding, relentless, but here the mountain gives something back. A breath, a pause, a reminder that even in struggle, there is beauty worth noticing. As the sun slips away, the stars begin to gather above the ridge, quiet, patient, and hurried. Their light feels older than the mountain itself, older than every climber who's ever stood here. I look up and feel small in the best possible way. The climb, the fear, the effort. It all becomes part of something wider. The night sky turns the pond into a mirror, and for a moment, it feels like I'm suspended between two worlds. The earth beneath me and the infinite above. That is why climbs like this matter. Not just for the summit, but for moments like this where the world opens and you remember why you keep moving upward. Just as the cave narrows, something shifts in the texture of the rock. At first it looks like erosion, just another scar carved by water and time, but when I lean closer, the truth settles in. These aren't cracks, they're claw marks. Deep, deliberate, and far too high for anything small. A bear passed through here, recently enough that the stone still feels unsettled by it. The mountain isn't empty. It has its own inhabitants, its own rhythms, its own warnings. And this is one of them. A reminder that I'm not the only one navigating these walls. I place my hand near the grooves, not touching, just acknowledging. Whatever made these marks survive this place long before I arrived. I need to climb with that same respect. As I climb past the waterfall spray, something catches my eye on the left. A small ledge, barely the width of a foot, jutting out from the cliffside. And there, impossibly rooted in that sliver of space, a single thistle grows. Its stem leans into the wind, its spines catching the light like tiny shards of determination. It shouldn't be here. Nothing this delicate should survive on a ledge this narrow, this exposed. But it does. It endears. I pause, one hand steady on the rock, letting the sight settle into me. The mountain is harsh, yes, but it also shelters these quiet rebellions of life. This thistle isn't just surviving, it's insisting. A reminder that even in the most unforgiving places, something stubborn and beautiful can still take hold. There it is, the little thistle on the left. I didn't expect it to feel this significant up close. The ledge is barely wide enough for my foot, and yet it chose its place. This impossible sliver of stone to grow. I can feel the wind tugging at me, testing my balance, reminding me how exposed this spot is, and still, it's here, holding on, enduring. I reach for it slowly, not to take it all, just enough. It deserves to keep living, to keep insisting on its place in the world. My fingers brush the stem, careful not to crush it. It's tougher than it looks. Everything up here is. As I ease free, I feel a strange sense of kinship. Maybe I'm not so different from this little thing, trying to root myself in a place that doesn't make it easy. Trying to grow when the mountain says I shouldn't. I tuck the thistle away gently, a small reminder that resilience doesn't need space. It just needs intention. Easy. Slow. The ledge is behind me now, but the mountain doesn't care about what I've already done. One wrong shift and it all unravels. I keep my way close to the wall, feeling the stone with the edges of my feet, letting my hands guide me back toward the cave shadow. The sound of the waterfall grows louder again, steady, familiar, like a heartbeat I can return to. There, the cave mouth. The air changes as soon as I slip inside, cooler, calmer. The danger outside doesn't disappear, but it loosens its grip on me. I can breathe again. The pond waits just ahead, its surface catching the last hints of fading light. I kneel beside it, cupping my hands in the cold water. The first sip is sharp, almost startling, but it settles something inside me. A reminder that I'm still here, still moving, still choosing to climb. For a moment, I let myself rest, just long enough to feel the quiet settle into my bones. The mountain isn't gentle, but it offers these small mercies. A cave, a pond, a breath. I stand again, feeling the weight of the climb ahead, and the steadiness returning to my hands. Time to go. The air changes the moment I step out of the cave. The waterfall's mist brushes my cheek, cool and familiar, but the world beyond the cave mouth feels sharper, like the mountain is reminding me that safety is something I leave behind with every upward move. I place my hand on the first hole to the right. It's cold, slick at the edges, but solid in the center. I test it with my weight, slow, deliberate, and with intention. No surprises. Good. My foot finds a small ridge just beneath it. Barely enough space for the ball of my foot, but it's enough to start the climb. I breathe in. The cave shadow falls away behind me. The cliff face rises ahead, steeper, more exposed, the kind of wall that demands honesty. There's no hiding your fear here. No rushing past your uncertainty. Every choice is a conversation with gravity. I reach up again, fingers brushing across the stone until they find a hold that feels right. Not perfect, just right. The kind of hold that asks for trust rather than strength. I pull gently, letting my body follow the motion instead of forcing it. The mound rewards patience. It punishes haste. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of whetstone and pine from somewhere far above. It steadies me. Reminds me that this climb is bigger than the moment I'm in. Bigger than the cave I just left. Bigger than the fear that flickers at the edges of my thoughts. My left foot searches for a new foothold. There, just a small indentation, but angled in a way that lets me lean into the wall. I settle into it, feeling the tension in my legs, the stretch in my shoulders. My breath slows, my heartbeat steadies. I keep climbing, one hold at a time, one decision at a time. The right side of the cliff face opens into a narrow vertical line, challenging but readable. I trace it with my eyes, mapping the path before I commit. Up, right, up again. A long reach, a weight shift, a moment of uncertainty. I let the uncertainty pass through me instead of fighting it. Fear is just information. It tells me to move carefully, to listen to the stone, to trust the small signals in my hands and feet. Another hold, another breath. The sound of the waterfall grows softer behind me, replaced by the quiet hum of the wind brushing the cliff. I'm leaving the cave's safety behind, but I'm carrying its calm with me. The mound feels different from this angle, more open, more honest. It shows me exactly what it expects. Presence, patience, and the willingness to keep moving even when the path narrows. I climb because the mountain asks me to. I climb because something in me answers. The diagram behind the cracked glass must have been beautiful once. Bright roots, clean lines, all the confidence of a well-kept climbing park. Now the moisture has blurred most of it into watercolor smudges, but a few pieces still survive. Ringdoka's cabin, the last refuge before Kami's slender peaks. All the amenities you need. Don't miss the chanterelle omelet. I smile at that. Even up here, someone cared enough to recommend breakfast. Laka. 3,549 meters. A rocky peak drawn like a blade. A prime destination for climbers looking for a challenge. Even faded, it feels like a dare.
Things are about
And
to get
Tenzen,
serious.
perched at 1,035 meters. The climbing gym carved into its namesake rock. Indoors, outdoors, all the training you could want. It feels distant now, like another life. The rest of the diagram is lost to time. Maybe the mountain prefers it that way. I look up at the stars. Sharp, bright, impossibly close. Things are about to get serious. And the night agrees. The bivouac spot sits just behind me, sheltered from the wind. Unnoticed half-buried in grit warns, follow the red ropes to reach points of interest. Larger faults give easier access upward. The ropes are still here, but frayed, sun-bleached, sagging. The safe route has been worn away by years of storms.
Play the message.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Aava. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Aava. I hope you remember to take candles up there and a cake. Give me that, Rosie. Sorry, Aava. We figured we could still celebrate your birthday with or without you here. I think Rosie had a few pints already. You wouldn't believe how much she can handle. Anna's here too. And Tommy. Sure you heard him singing off key. Anyway, hugs and kisses. Hope you're enjoying your birthday wherever you are. And I hope you're thinking about us, okay?
Such a goofy bunch. Happy birthday, Aava.
Cook a simple bowl of stewed veggies with the freeze-dried mix and the water from my glass jar. It tastes better than it should. I check my hands. No tears, no swelling. Still strong, still ready. Oh, 3:57. Forecast, sunny with some clouds. A good day to climb. consolidate my supplies. Thistle, rope, water, tools. Everything in its place. Then I step outside. The cold bites, but it wakes me. Stars haven't moved, but they feel closer now, like they're watching. There's a quiet grace to this moment, a stillness I can feel in my bones. Tomorrow, the real ascent begins. Tonight, I stand beneath the stars and let the mountain know I'm ready.